so we don't look like we're empty. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I totally get that. I know it's less than ideal. It's also the exact same angle as the two shot is taken from. But I think the public is more used to that as a trick that a lot of YouTubers do. I don't necessarily like it when they do it. So I would right keep moving the zoom in and out. Yeah. Now, if they're making a point and they want to zoom in on the eyes, to make that point, okay. If there's a purpose, but if the purpose is just to change the shot, that's not a very good purpose. Okay, let's. Yeah, yeah. Corny's coming in. You can. We'll see how he look. How does he look on the single shot? I need to tilt up a little bit, don't I? I know it. I know it. Cleaned up. Let's. Now, what if you were to lean forward a bit, like lean in the conversation a little bit? No, just forward. Yeah. Don't.
I look like an old man trying to.
Let's see. I need to tilt up a little bit more. No. I'm sorry. What? Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Corny's an expert at eclipsing.
Am I? Well, it's only my second time doing that. First time was dress rehearsal.
All right, we'll share that. I'm not gonna. I said we won't be ready to go at the top of the hour. It'll be close, but not quite. So we'll share this out to TWiRT. It does. It's amazing.
You gonna go to Spain to see the next one, sir?
Well, apparently I am.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I don't know that. I'm going to tell Carmen we're going. Well, now I have just screwed up again here. Let's see if I can get back to it. Too much. I'm just not very good at this. Actually, I'll blame it on Facebook's silly directions. Let's see. Oh, instead of doing that, let's go to Kirk Harnack. And we'll go here and we'll say share and share to feed. And boom. And we will share this out to, let's see, let me go back to being me. It's not easy being me.
No. Not easy being green either.
And we will share this to a group. And Suncast, I assume you're going to be able to zoom in the camera 2 shot to be a head and shoulders shot. Oh, wonderful. I guess Mr. Tarr's not with us yet. All right. Well, that's okay. You're speaking at 3, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're available to fetch some mint juleps between now and 3, right?
I'm going to be getting myself inside my mental space that I need to be in.
I hear you.
Mint juleps just might help with that.
They might. Okay. Hey, well, since we do have somebody here, we can be on the 2 shot. I only wanted a single shot of me in case that chair was empty. So if that chair is empty, if you could do a single shot on me,
I think it is empty.
That'd be good. Chucklehead.
I'm an empty suit over here right now.
All right, it is the top of the hour. Actually, 2 minutes past, so we better get started here. We'll get started with This Week in Radio Tech, episode 691. Suncast, if you need to tell me anything, I do have the chat box open. So that's the only way I could be apprised, because I'm going to have a hard time hearing anything you feed my way. It's getting a little noisy out here.
Didn't I just see
you? You did, yeah.
Okay.
You saw me eating lunch.
Well, I mean, just not too long ago.
About a week ago. Yeah, that's right. All right, we'll start the show, episode 691. Hey, everybody on the network. Glad you're here. Thanks for hanging in for the live feed. This part will be deleted so we can say whatever we want to. And we'll start this week in Radio Tech as soon as Corny gets done drinking. You got a drinking problem.
I got a drinking problem.
Here we go in 3, 2. Hey, everybody. It's This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack. And today, as we do every year, well, except for COVID years, we're at the Public Radio Engineering Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're at the Tuscany Suites and Casino and all that stuff. I'm here with Corny. He's my first guest. Chris Tarr, I don't believe is going to be with us today. At least he's not with us right now. But we're here with a bunch of public radio engineers at this conference. You know, the way this apparently works, Corny, is because the NAB is such a big show, and it only lasts 4 or 5 days. There are plenty of groups and organizations that also have their own special interest conferences, either before the NAB. I don't know if anybody actually does it after the NAB. Most people want to go home or take a ride out in the desert or something. But so PREC, Public Radio Engineering Conference, is something that happens before NAB. So here we are, and I'm speaking tomorrow at this show, at this conference. And then I get to speak at the SBE Ennis conference tomorrow and Saturday too. Corny, you're here. Glad to see you, man.
Glad to see you too.
You're speaking tomorrow yourself here.
Yes. Tomorrow?
Oh, today.
Today, yes.
Today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think about that for a second. I just flew in this morning, so my brain's running a little slow.
You're not sweating nearly enough, but you're ready to speak?
Inside I'm sweating. That'll come out later.
So there's a lot of topics going on today. I'm going to pull this from under your water. There you go. What is today's? Thursday, April 11th. The Public Radio Engineering Conference, and we're going to talk to a couple officials from the conference in a little bit later on today. But you're speaking on this topic of understanding loudness meters. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, I consider myself a pretty decent engineer. Loudness, I get the concept. I don't necessarily understand compliance. Like if you're already too loud, what do you do about it? Tell us give us a little preview of what you're going to be speaking about. What are they going to be learning?
Well, last year's presentation, I went pretty deep into the mechanics of the meters and how they work, and what is it the terms mean. This year, I'm going to go into how do you interpret the meters. So in this case, with our products, there's Chameleon C6 and things like that. It's got a loudness meter on it, and it's got built-in algorithms to keep you inside of compliance. And we get a lot of questions from people as to, how come this meter is doing this? My target's minus 10 lux. Why is it integrated at minus 12? And so this is the basis behind, laying out some of that information for people as to what all that means and why you're seeing what you're seeing.
For those of us older than probably 25 years old, all of our engineering lives, the goal has been to be kind of like The Price is Right, as loud as possible, but not over, right? And now that doesn't mean that everything's got to be ultra processed, although certainly some broadcasters have done that. And when we were talking about modulating an AM transmitter, there was some benefit to being loud. And in the competitive world of FM broadcasting, there in the past has been some benefit in being loud. But now our competitors are typically online services as much as they are other broadcasters. So I'm given to understand that really being loud ain't where it's at. What is where it's at?
Well, the real name of the game is being consistent across services. So podcasters for some time now have pretty much standardized at minus 16 lux for their standard operating level, so that no matter what podcast show you listen to, if they're following the standards, you're not reaching for your volume control when the next podcast comes up in your queue. Likewise, Apple Music and services like that have also standardized pretty close to minus 16 lux. So if you go from a podcast to your music selections, you're not, again, reaching for the knob in the car. So that's really the name of the game. And minus 16 lux, while it's not like radio, if you want to compare it to radio, many radio stations are kind of like around minus 7, minus 6, minus 5 lux. So they're pretty loud, depending on your market. And minus 16 lux was chosen because it allows you to have some quality still. You're not, mashing everything down be competitive. And if you're, say, like an NPR or a jazz station, you're not sound like a rock station to try to keep your loudness normal, so everyone's kind of down. And so that's a benefit there. And if you want to sound more aggressive, you can always make the processing more aggressive, but at that minus 16 lux level. So.
I got to play with this some more to get some more hands-on time with it. Well, we're going to jump into our first ad right here, and I'm looking forward to hearing you talk. When I wrap up the show here at the top of the hour, top of the next hour, I'm going to be a couple minutes late getting in to see you, but I'm looking forward to it and learning something. Especially, I want to know what to do when you're too loud, because that's a lot of radio's problem, if you will.
Yeah, for over the air, it's kind of like it kind of is what it is kind of thing, because if you were to drop it down to be at some standard loudness level, you're going to be pretty doggone quiet. So radio kind of like already kind of where it is, but the new ground is being laid on the streaming services. And that's kind of where various loudness standards are being established.
Although I get requests myself as an engineer or as someone who works with Telos and Omnia processing. I get requests from broadcasters saying, "Hey, I want our stream to be as loud as somebody else's." Well, LUF standards are kind of out the window at that point, aren't they?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the old radio mentality kicking in, and it's a matter of like, okay, well, some people that's just going to be what it is because they're just trained in that radio mentality where loud is better. But think about it from a listener's point of view, where if they're coming from a podcast to your stream, you're blasting them into the back seat of the car, when it's time for music, and going back to this podcast, it's down in the mud all of a sudden. So it's really more out of convenience to the end user versus ego, kind of thing.
Cornelius Gould has been our guest for the last few minutes. Corny, you're speaking in just a few minutes. I'm Kirk Harnack here at the Tuscany Hotel, Casino, and Suites, and we're going to continue with This Week in Radio Tech in just a minute. Our show is brought to you in part by Nautel, and Nautel is doing a lot here at the NAB. In fact, let me tell you what they're doing. They're, of course, doing the Nautel Users Group, the NUG at NAB. That's happening this Sunday, April 14th at the Flamingo, Las Vegas. It is not too late to sign up, I don't think. You can get some food there. If you're coming to NAB, go to the NUG. But they're having some other events too. Oh, by the way, you can live stream the NUG as well. So for all of you not coming to Las Vegas, or you've got other commitments on Sunday morning, then you can stream that. There's a link for it on the Nautel website. I believe it's nautel.com/NAB. Then they're having an HD radio event on Monday, April 15th from 4 to 6 p.m. in their booth. It's the West Hall, booth 3042, the HD radio event that Nautel is doing. They're doing a live podcast. It's their frequently available Transmission Talk Tuesday. And, of course, they're doing this on Tuesday next week, April 16th. You can watch the live stream. The link for that is on the nautel.com website. And that's going to be at noon Eastern time. That's what I've got, noon Eastern time. I think we're going to do the TWiRT show next week live, not too long after the Transmission Talk Tuesday. So, hey, be sure you catch Transmission Talk Tuesday. And then coming up later on Tuesday, it's the 55th anniversary celebration, Always for You from Nautel. That's Tuesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. That's in their booth. I don't think they'll be live streaming that. So you got to be here or you got to be square. Thanks a lot, Nautel, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech and being such a big part of the NAB. All right, look who we got here as a guest. Let me switch back to my camera view. There we go. Hi.
We in that camera?
Actually, I got a special camera for you here. There we go. Or this one, whichever one you like.
Excellent.
Scott Feibush.
Hey, Kirk.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, too.
I've always known you as Mr. Calendar and Mr. Tower Calendar. And then I started knowing you as comedy, stand-up comedian. And I mean, that's all been eclipsed, however.
But I did. So we have the total solar eclipse that went over Rochester. Not that we got to see it because it's Rochester. We got clouded in. So it goes. But we had a great time. Our Rochester Museum and Science Center, the people in Rochester just went crazy over the eclipse. And it was fantastic. We had a planning group, a task force that literally started meeting right after 2017. There were a bunch of people who came back to town and said, this is going to be huge. It's going right over us. Let's get ready for it.
Yeah.
And so we had a task force that was going for 7 years. We had all these events all over town, including the Rock the Eclipse Festival, because everything in Rochester is ROC,
Of course.
whatever.
Yes.
So we had the Rock the Eclipse Festival at our Rochester Museum and Science Center all weekend long, and I got to MC all the events. On Saturday, have you ever heard of Phil Plait, the bad astronomer online?
Oh
You
my
ever-
goodness, no, but I'd love to. I already like it.
He's
Already like it.
fantastic. So he was the keynote speaker. I got to meet him and talk to him. And they said to me, would you like to do Eclipse comedy? And I said, I will pull out my darkest humor. I will try not to overshadow the rest of the events that are going on. And so we pulled together. My wife is also a stand-up.
Yeah.
And we hosted this. We had a packed auditorium for it. And we had 5 local comics all getting to do smart, fun, scientific comedy about the eclipse, which is a lot more fun than a lot of the, kind of lowbrow humor that shows up at a lot of the open mics. I mean, I was doing jokes 2 weeks ago about my colonoscopy because I'm at that age, but this was a lot of fun, and we had actual scientists who are also comics were up on stage with us. It was great.
What kind of jokes can you tell about an eclipse? I mean, I know it's hard to do something just on the spur of the moment, but how do you approach comedy on something that is kind of inherently not necessarily funny? How do you make it funny?
The worst thing you can ask a comic: tell me a joke. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So no, there were a lot of different angles to it, obviously, that you can pursue. I do a lot of bits about working in public radio.
Yeah.
And about how I use my public radio voice. Sometimes for evil, sometimes for good. And so, going back and forth between having to be very serious and earnest on the air, talking about the eclipse for all the pieces that I was doing for public radio, and then talking about what was really going on, because you and I both saw the eclipse in 2017.
Right.
And we both experienced totality, and we both got our minds blown.
Yeah.
And there is a lot that I would love to be able to say to people about just what a mental mind bleep that is, right? And how amazing it is to experience. I was talking a little bit about the contrast with that. And then, of course, the challenges about, here I am working in radio. We had to do 3 live hours on Monday talking about an eclipse on the radio.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. It's a very visual event.
And here we are talking about, well, it's not dark yet. Not dark yet. Nope, still not dark. It'll be dark. Oh, now it's dark.
So actually, that dovetails nicely, though, into a topic. I watched the eclipse, and I was not quite in totality in Owensboro, Kentucky, at a radio station there, and Cromwell Broadcasting, and I had to go see them anyway on some some Telos business stuff, and they were having a parking lot party. They were giving out glasses, of course, and we were in near totality. But it made me think about something. When the eclipse, when it was happening, when we were in as dark as we were going to get, and all the street lights were coming on, and it really made me think back to 2017 when I was in totality in North Tennessee. And the reaction of the environment around was, to me, even more profound than looking at the moon covering the sun. So we and that's where it could be an event for radio, because we started to hear birds chirping in a way that they do in the evening. I'm not sure I can describe that. We heard crickets and just other evening noises, or maybe that's in our minds. Maybe it felt like evening noises. Now? Even though you had cloud cover, you still had bright clouds before the event. You had very dark clouds during the event because there was nearly no sun. So you had to have as much of the same feeling of twilight and getting in the night as people who didn't have the cloud cover. Talk to me about the mood and the feeling and the sounds that occurred at that time.
It was amazing. I had been doing a lot with sound already. So I produced a 6-part series for my public radio station in Rochester, WXXI, called What to Expect When You're Expecting an Eclipse. And I drew very heavily on my experience from 2017. I had audio that I had captured off a video because I had a camera pointed at our family watching the eclipse in Kentucky 7 years ago. So I had all of that audio to draw from. And it was a tremendously celebratory event that time. I was with a group of strangers in a park. And people were cheering and shouting and hooting and hollering. And this was a much more intense and quiet event. I had a group of people in my backyard, and people have been telling me for like 2 years, oh, I'm going to come to your house, and they did. And a lot of them had experienced totality before. And so they kind of knew what they were expecting. And so when it really got dark, and it got really profoundly, deeply dark, everybody on the deck got very quiet. And there were not a lot of neighbors around. There was another big town event that was happening down the street from me, and I think a lot of people were down there. So it got really, really quiet. And you could hear the sounds change. You could hear the peepers were coming out.
Yeah.
Which was really neat. Somebody said they thought they heard bats. I'm not certain about that. I've got a bunch of those little Tascam, little digital recorders, and I had set a couple of them up in my yard and just left them running. I haven't even pulled that audio yet. I got to go back and listen to it. Yeah. Just to grab those sounds and hear what they sounded like. But it was a very, very emotionally intense experience. The darkness was incredibly profound, and it felt. I mean, this one really did last almost twice as long as the totality that we had in Kentucky and in Nashville. That was a little over 2 minutes.
Yeah.
In 2017, this was 3.5 minutes in Rochester, which, by the way, worked out perfectly for public radio. We're here at a public radio event. So the length of a feature, the cutaway that NPR gives you, right, that drops into Morning Edition and All Things Considered, is a total of 4 minutes, including an anchor intro, which means that the actual piece should come out to about 3 minutes and 38 seconds, which was the precise length of totality over downtown Rochester. So the last piece that I did out of that 6-part series, I just called 338, and it was exactly 3 minutes and 38 seconds, sort of a guided meditation of here are some things to think about as you're going through this eclipse experience maybe for the first time. And it was super rewarding, too. The other great thing about it was that, for years and years and years, those of us who had experienced 2017, anybody who experiences it, as you well know, wants to tell other people, oh my God, don't miss this. This is life-changing. And it's a hard thing to convey. People have seen partial eclipses and looked up and said, okay, that was vaguely interesting, I guess. And totality, of course, is this completely different thing. And so I was telling people for years, no, this is different. This is spectacular. You need to do whatever you can do to see this. And almost immediately, right after totality hit, I started getting these messages, and I was on our newsroom chat, and I was like, oh, I see. And I just put this thing in all caps on our newsroom chat that just said, I tried to tell you people. And of course, our host who was on the air live from the roof of the station immediately quoted that on the air. And I was set up at home. I had a Comrex sitting at home, hooked up to my fiber internet because nobody knew how well the cell network was going to hold up.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I got on the air right after that with him, and we were talking about it. But it was a great time, and I don't regret having stayed home for it. B, I'm really looking forward to the next two in Europe and Africa in 2026 and 27.
Yeah, and you told me that it's going on in Spain in 2026.
2026 curves around. It starts actually in Greenland and Iceland.
Yeah.
Curves out into the Atlantic, and then comes down across Spain, and then it's sort of sunset off the eastern coast of Spain in the Mediterranean. 2027, 6.5 minutes of totality over Luxor, Egypt. In August, when you can pretty much guarantee there are going to be no clouds to get
over Luxor. That's I can hear the conspiracy theory starting already.
Yeah. And then 2044 and 45 in the continental U.S. People who are going to still be around.
Yeah. Hope I will.
I'm already looking forward. 2044 is tricky because it's up in North Dakota and Montana and into Alberta. 2045 is another coast-to-coast one.
Oh.
Up in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. I was talking to one of our Utah engineers in here. It's going to come over him in Utah and then eventually end up out over Florida.
I was looking at the map of that 2045 one, and that's going to go over our radio stations in Mississippi.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, one last question.
Larry can hang out.
That's right. Yeah. One last before we go, and that is, I know you're in public radio, but did you happen to notice if there's been any chart movement of Bonnie Tyler's song?
It was apparently, I guess it was like number one on Spotify for that day. And I have to say, and I'm very proud of myself for this, we resisted making puns about it. Uh-huh. The title of our comedy show was Totality Funny, What We Laugh About in the Shadows. And there were so many total eclipse of the whatever.
Yeah.
There was total eclipse of the park and total eclipse in the dark and all that. We didn't make one Bonnie Tyler joke, and I had a ton of musical references in my pieces. I was working Pink Floyd in there, and I was working urso vein in there, and they might be giants. The sun is a massive incandescent gas. All of that. I did not use Bonnie Tyler once, and I am not one bit sorry for that.
Well, cool. Scott, it's delightful to talk to you. Thank you for spending some time with us. Are you speaking, or are you an attendee here?
I am just an attendee.
Okay.
I'm hanging out. I wear so many different hats. I do station brokerage and FCC engineering. So I'm actually here this time, just kind of meeting with people and figuring out how I can help them with all the different things that I do, and kind of a different NAB for me this year. That's okay.
Scott, thank you so much for being my guest.
See you, Kurt.
I appreciate it very much.
All right.
Hey, our show This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcast Bionics. We're going to hear from them. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Thanks a lot to Broadcast Bionics for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech and the Bionic Studio. They got a lot of cool things, including Camera One and Virtual Rack. You've heard us talk about those things as well. And I'll get to visit Broadcast Bionics during the show. And we'll do an interview with Dan McQuillan or somebody else there, and we'll bring that back to you soon. All right, I'm Kirk Harnack. We're at the Public Radio Engineering Conference, the PREC, at the Tuscany Hotel and Suites and Casino and Pool Hall and Pool, something like that. Today, right now, though, we have changed out the talent in the guest chair.
Talent.
That's right.
Talent.
And we've got Jim Gray. Hi, Jim.
Hello, Kirk.
So good to see you. I saw you last year, right?
Oh, every year. This is like the thing I need that recharges me in this business every year is to come here, see all the things that are kind of cutting edge and new things, learn about things that I need to learn about.
Yeah.
And to kind of re-inspire.
Now here Jim is being all serious and knowledgeable, and yet the guy is hilarious. So this afternoon, I mentioned, or this morning actually, I mentioned to him, I said, Jim, we don't need to talk about your sordid past. And to that, Jim retorted,
Why don't we talk about my sordid future? Because you know it's coming.
sordid future. That's great, man. I got to work that into my stand-up routine somehow.
Very good.
All right. So you or your company handle a lot the AV here, so you're handling the video production and such.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we do, just kind of as a service to the organization. We provide the video streaming. We provide a three camera shoot. Everything's being recorded. We have a very robust virtual attendee list. We're running almost 15% or so of our people at the conference are virtual. They're able to interact with us and ask questions and interact with the presenters. We pride ourselves in having a very good production of this. What this is, it's not just a no offense, but set up a camera in the room and let her buck.
Yeah. No offense taken. This is a different kind of show, and unfortunately, we've never done audience participation, and where you guys, what your audience can ask questions.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if you've noticed, especially compared to a lot of the other events, we have a very active group here of asking questions and wanting follow up, and sometimes it delves into a discussion amongst themselves. We had one of our presenters from Stream Guys talking about metadata that. By the end of their discussion, it kind of went into a lot of the audience members kind of learning from each other and talking back and forth as much as they're asking questions of the presenter, which was perfect. I mean, that's what this is all about, learning from the people in the room, and that's not just the guy up on the podium. So there's a lot of that.
Some of the sharpest engineers anywhere are these public radio guys, and I walked in the room this morning and realized I know half or more of the people in here, and they're good engineers. They're good people, and they're quite knowledgeable. And it's delightful that not every, but a lot of public radio stations afford their engineers learning opportunities, like to come here at this event that's tailored for them.
Yeah, we have a very strong participation in, and times are tough in the industry in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places. That's one of the reasons that we do offer the virtual experience, and we want them to have as close to the real experience as they can. So interactivity is absolutely a key piece of this, because there's a lot of times, in fact, that there's the previous presentation that was from Bill Bennett on AI. He's helping Encode do some AI development. Somebody asked a question, and you could see the light bulb go off in Bill's mind. He's like, "Can I use that?" And I'm gonna develop something around that. That was a great idea, and to watch that happen in this room of very smart and capable people is impressive. And we have people of all ages. I think our youngest attendee right now is 22, all the way up to I don't want to say. So we've got a great audience and different skill levels, and presentations some of it are very basic. And is good for those beginners. Some of them are very technical, but again, those are the ones that kind of lets all of us stretch our legs a little bit.
I got to talk to Bill about some of the AI stuff. A couple of my radio stations are using AI voices overnight on an oldies shift. So far, we're okay with it. A little better than okay. It's got some improvements to be made, but it's better than nobody, and it's better than somebody who's bad. That's for sure. What I want to see us working on, and maybe your company, because you're ahead of the curve on a lot of things, we'd like to get AI listeners as well.
Can Nielsen count that?
That was my next. I'd like to get some AI diary fillers.
Right. I think there might be some specific rules against that.
Maybe so. Let's see. You've got a product to show us. I want to hold off on that for just a second. Were you here for the microphone demonstration this morning?
Yes. So that was our second presentation of the day, and it was a great opportunity for people that are like thinking audio processing and microphones. Mike Pappas from Orban came in and did a whole thing about air chain processing and things like that. But air chain processing starts with the microphone. Yeah. So he had a professional voice talent come in with him, and they had a script, and we had a lineup of microphones that were all piped in, zeroed out the EQs, no dynamic control, so everything was equal, and started saying, all right, so here's what this sounds like unprocessed. Now here's what that sounds like, and why does this one sound thinner and that one doesn't? And what's the difference between an RE20 and an RE27? Well, it gives you 6 dB gain in an RE27, but it also doesn't sound like an RE20 anymore. So that's a problem. And how do you get good gain out of some of these very power hungry mics? Do you have to put something in front of it? And how much can you really rely on your mic preamp? And he had an SM7, and then he had an SM7ND that has 20 dB of gain built into it. Oh. Essentially, it's got a cloud lifter inside of it. Essentially, it's their own version of that. But put phantom power on it, and all of a sudden you've got all the headroom that's there, and it's not noisy, and it's not as power hungry anymore. Still gives you mic level out, and everything's all happy. But but what does it sound like after you've run through that? So I mean, we had everything from a very expensive Neumann all the way down to I think it's $180. I want to say maybe barrel.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the cheaper end was, and including like shotgun mic. Because a lot of voiceover people like, I think it's the 418.
The Sennheiser MKH 416.
416. That's what it was. Yeah. So we had a shotgun mic like that, so to use as an example. But it was great to sit there and listen to the difference in microphones, and and an explanation of here's what this one's doing, and here's what this one sounds like, but why? Because of this. Now, when you look at the spec sheet, you can see it's going to do this because it says this on the spec sheet that nobody reads nor understands.
Okay.
So it was a great example and a great education.
What were there any audience surprises in the mic comparisons?
I think that the light bulb went off a little bit when we compared the RE20 to the RE27. There was that, and the SM7 versus the SM7ND. There's SM7B and an SM7ND were the two there. And by shock to utterly nobody, the Neumann sounded wonderful.
Okay. That's what I heard. Yeah. Okay. So at the moment, my favorite mic for my purposes in my office right now is that Sennheiser MKH 416 because it has great off-axis rejection. I can close talk it without popping it. It just seems to make up until that mic, my favorite was the Heil PR40, which to me sounds great on males, doesn't necessarily sound good on females. It seems to accentuate the masculinity of the male voice. Right. So maybe that's why I like it. What you know? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the difference in some of these is in usage. So that 416 mic is great. You know how to work it. Yeah. It's very much the same thing with the RE20 versus the SM7 the debate that's been out there. Yeah. I think the RE20 is a better quality mic. Sounds a little bit better, but it is not as forgiving as that SM7. That SM7 you can just turn on and go, and it just works. And it's not quite as good as the RE20, but there's the factor of who's using this and do you know how to work it. That 416, you got to know how to work it.
When I got into radio, the higher end stations that could afford it were using that Sennheiser, MD421 and the 441 also. Yep. They don't seem to be popular vocal mics in radio stations.
No, and the 421, that's what I started off on. 1989 at KJHS in International Falls, Minnesota. And these days, you know what I use those for? They are beautiful microphones for brass. Okay. That if I have somebody that has a saxophone, that is my go-to mic.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? and who was it? Stevie Nicks was holding a 441 on an album cover or something.
Yeah. Wow. But it was great. It was a great demonstration this morning. It was super educational on a thing that we all thought we knew what we're talking about, and then realized we didn't.
Yeah. That's the kind of education I like. Like, open my eyes.
Yeah.
All right, open my eyes to what's in your left hand.
So this is one of the things that Optimized Media Group, my company, has been displaying here. See if I can get this there. Thank you, sir.
Okay. That's even.
What camera are we shooting at here?
Let's try it, and let's get the light out of it. There we go. How about?
So this is actually a working example of what we're working on here. We have been working towards the idea of making control a thing again and making it easy and inexpensive. So there's a lot of devices out there that need control, but you don't have simple contact closure controls anymore. It's going to be serial control, RS-232 or something like that. There's serial protocols, or it might be like a CD player that the only control that you have on it is if you had a IR remote. Okay, well,
really? Okay.
Yeah. So what we do here with this one is I can take any device that uses TTL or serial protocols, RS-232, or any device that uses IR to control it, and now control it with just simple contact closures. Professional CD players for radio studios just isn't a thing anymore. They're close. They've got some good CD players, don't get me wrong, but things like AutoStart, it's just not a thing.
Yeah.
So our working examples, we have the Tascam BT200T. I think there's a CD200. Yeah, the BT200T. But that has almost everything you want, but it doesn't have any AutoStart on it. So what we do is this set right here. I'm trying to do this in reverse. This is IR blasters. So you get an IR blaster with this, stick it right to the front face of your CD player, and this lives in your rack behind it. and I hit contact closure over here, and it plays on your device there.
Okay.
Now, it's not just limited to CD players. So if you've got a device that it talks serial or IR and you need to control it, send us the configuration or send us the remote, and we'll program it, send you the file. You can upload it over Wi-Fi. This does have Wi-Fi capabilities built right onto it for management and control and uploading firmwares and things like that. Uses nearly no power. I've been powering this thing for the last 2 days off of this battery, and it's still at 100%.
Wow.
I think it's 150 milliamps is the raw on it.
Okay.
But each one of these controls 3 devices. So if you've got 3 CD players or 3 devices in a rack, you just need one to be able to do that. But,
So people send you the remote so you can learn what it needs to say.
Yep.
Can I send you my Toyota 4Runner key fob, and then I can hit a button on the console and start the? Never mind.
Challenge accepted. This is from the minds of Alex Hartman and Leif Clayson.
Yeah.
Leif loves to program things. Alex works very much in the broadcasting industry, and my company, which is primarily an engineering and consulting company, we see a lot of these things that the end user stations are wanting, and it's getting harder to control things in a basic way without having very expensive software to be able to do it. I just want to push one button, and I need these 3 things to happen.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting tougher and tougher to do that inexpensively. So this is the second of our line of items that we have planned out to be able to control things like satellite receivers or anything else. And again, a lot of these things have come from our clients out there. What do you need to have control over? Let's find a way of controlling this thing, and we'll build you an interface for it. Well, this or a universal interface, so we can just send you the software to be able to do what you need to. The first piece was actually just this simple thing here that is made for the Axia GPIO system. So it's a GPIO breakout board.
Gotcha. So it takes a 15 pin and turns it into
15 pin turns it into a dual RJ45, one in and one out.
Yeah.
If any of you have ever done a studio install, you need about 30 or 40 of these things sometimes. So.
And I've made the mistake of wiring them by hand with solder, and I don't have all day.
Oh yeah,
this cuts it down to under an hour, probably. Yeah.
I'll tell you, it is worth its weight in gold, just in the amount of time that it'll save you from trying to make your own.
Yeah.
But both these things are available either directly through Optimized Media Group or BGS Broadcaster General Store. So.
We're going to take a break here in just a minute. Do you have any parting words? Anything that trends you're seeing or anything interesting? I was interested in the mic demo, and thanks for telling me about Mike Pappas and that. Anything else coming up or that you've seen that you want to pay particular attention to, or that your customers are asking about?
It's good that you have the schedule here right in front of me.
we talked about AI.
Right.
We talked about the mic demo, about remote controlling this kind of stuff.
We've got Neo Group talking about the transition away from ISDN and POTS lines and into the VoIP and SIP systems.
Yeah.
That's an ongoing process. What does it mean, and how do you kind of work your way around that? That's actually later on this afternoon.
Yeah.
You talked to Corny about his presentation on loudness. That's
right.
Always good to know. Everybody wants to know what's that LUFS thing mean, and why isn't it moving at the same rate as the rest of them? It confuses people sometimes. That's for sure. We have, of course, this guy talking later on about working virtually as well.
Yep.
We have something kind of specific for this group. We have a block in the afternoon on Fridays from NPR talking about some things that are specific to NPR affiliates and affiliate stations. That's at the end there. But I mean, there's so many little tidbits that are available in here. And again, it's kind of like that mic demo. It wasn't until we saw it happening that we realized what it was that we were missing. And that's a lot of what we do here. And I'm proud to be a part of PREC and the head of the PREC committee, working on developing these the show and these list of presenters to try and fill it in. And I'm very, very proud about what we have to offer this year and for future years.
Well, we encourage public radio engineers to come be a part of this, either in person next year or virtually again.
For the record, you do not need to be a public radio engineer. In fact, we've got a lot of people that are tangentially, we'll say, affiliated. It's like, I once worked in public radio. So that's fine. This group was built around the idea of public radio engineers, but our topic, with the exception of that Friday afternoon section, is very industry agnostic.
You going to be around for that awards dinner?
Best steak in town.
Yeah, indeed. Well, good. I'll see you there.
All right. Thanks, Kirk.
All right. Jim Gray, thank you so much. Jim Gray with Optimized Media Group, OMG. You know, I'm part owner of a company also called OMG, but it stands for Oxford Media Group. Yeah, we're a radio station.
I think it works better, especially with my little sign. It's like, OMG, what's this?
Yeah. Perfect.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack here. We're broadcasting live from the Tuscany Hotel Suites, pool hall, and all that stuff. The Public Radio Engineering Conference is what's going on. I've got a couple of live ads I'm doing. If you, you know who's next? Fellow right over in the integration. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Hey, our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Angry Audio. And let me tell you for just a minute about the Guest Gizmo from Angry Audio. That's it right there. I got to install a couple of these Guest Gizmos last summer. Yeah, last summer. Boy, time flies, doesn't it? And I needed some guest positions for headphones and for a mute button for this, so the guests could mute themselves. And Catfish, Mike Dosh at Angry Audio showed me this Guest Gizmo. And so I thought, okay, I'll give that a try. The cool thing is, look, I'm okay with a drill and not so good with a scroll saw or a saber saw. Cut a round hole in the top of the furniture. And of course, that always makes you a little bit of nervous. Is this going in the right place? Because I sure can't change it. You drop the Guest Gizmo in, and it has a square lid on it, a square bezel, you might call it. And you drop this thing in, and it looks perfect. It looks like you actually know what you're doing. It makes you look like a carpenter, and a fine one at that. Well, within another 15 minutes, I had these two Guest Gizmos wired up to my Axia X node, and the logic involved with the GPIO node, and voila. Let's see, it's got left and right audio inputs, of course. It's got that logic port that you just plug a 3.5 millimeter plug into. It can behave a couple of different ways, actually, as a cough switch or as an on-off for the mic channel. And it's just so cool. It's got it comes with the wall wart, so you run that line along with the other stuff, and there you go. It looks good. The guests, even though if they're not in radio, they know exactly what it does. It's quite apparent they plug their headphones in there, or we may already have headphones plugged into it, but the volume control is also quite apparent. So, hey, it's easy to install, makes you look good as an engineer, and it's easy for the guests to use, which, you know, your guests aren't typically radio people. They just come in the studio, they know what to do. It's great. Check it out along with all the other cool stuff from Angry Audio. The website is angryaudio.com, and their products are available from almost any broadcast equipment dealer. Almost everybody carries their stuff, so please check it out. Hey, our show is also brought to you by Max Connect, and they offer a variety of engineering services, but speaking of Angry Audio, they collaborated with Angry Audio to make the Max Connect Broadcast U.192 MPX USB sound card. Well, that's a whole sentence. That should be on a test somewhere. This is the device that is sorely needed in the broadcast industry when you decide, hey, I'm going to put my FM audio processor in a computer as software. And so, you know, there's several different companies that make available software that can be your FM audio processor. Of course, Stereo Tool is one of those. That's Han von Zutphen's company. There's also Breakaway, the Breakaway processors from Leif Clayson. And there's the Omnia SST software from my friends at Omnia. Now, if you need to send that MPX audio somewhere else, you do it using micro MPX. But if you need that MPX audio to be right there near the server, near the computer it's running on, well, what are you going to do? Now, there are a couple of sound cards that do a hit or miss job at creating a beautiful MPX signal. And by the way, if you've ever studied the FM MPX signal, you know that this signal is, I wouldn't say fragile, but it needs to be right. It needs to have very low noise. It needs to have phase consistency across the entire composite baseband, you know, from 20 hertz up to about 60 kilohertz or so. It needs to be right all the way across. It needs to have ruler flat frequency response. If it doesn't have these things, your on-air FM signal is going to get compromised by an equivalent amount to the to the compromise that is how the MPX signal is getting treated. Well, this box connects USB to your computer that's running the FM processor, and then it puts out the composite MPX signal. It also has digital and analog inputs and outputs for regular stereo audio as well. It's got a great list of features. It's super well built. It's designed precisely for this purpose. So check it out. You can go to Angry Audio or Max Connect. Go to Max Connect's website. Check it out. It's the U.192. And if this kind of processing, and I'm doing this at a couple stations in Mississippi, we do the processing with Omnia SST, and we're using micro MPX and an Omnia MPX node at the other end. But if I need it locally, and you know what, I got an application, I'll be getting a U.192 box to produce that MPX audio. Thanks so much, Max Connect and Angry Audio, both for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. I think they're making a big announcement, too, about some kind of fancy collaboration. All right, it's Kirk Harnack here at the Tuscany. We're at the Public Radio Engineering Conference. Got about 12 minutes to go in today's show, and with me here is Joseph Williams. Hi, Joseph. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, Kirk. Nice to see you.
Good. You are a Philadelphia guy, huh?
I am from Philadelphia, and that's where I'm serving as Director of Engineering and Technology for Temple University's Public Radio Network, WRTI 90.1 FM in Philadelphia.
So I'm not familiar with WRTI. Tell me about that station. What's their programming and specialty?
Sure. Temple WRTI 90.1 FM is split programming between classical and jazz.
Okay.
So it's classical from, let's say, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then switch formats to jazz for the next 12 hours. And it's also on HD2 when we're broadcasting, let's say, classical on the FM, and we're doing jazz on HD2.
Okay.
And then we switch it, within 12 hours. Yeah.
Wow. It's funny. I was just talking with my friend Tim Barry, who is the engineer for the public station WUOT in Knoxville, Tennessee, University of Tennessee. They have the same kind of format. They are classical and jazz. We were talking about audio processing. Hey, Kirk, and we got a lot of talk, too, of course, from NPR. So we're going to be talking about that. Joseph, where did you begin to get your experience in engineering?
Well, interesting enough, I was an undergrad at Temple University.
Okay.
In 1990, showing how old I am.
Uh-huh.
And during that time, Mark Humphrey was the chief engineer.
Really?
Yeah, Mark
Okay,
Humphrey
I
at the
know Mark.
time. Walter Freeman, who I believe is at Harris, he was a staff engineer. Jeff DiPolo
Yep.
with Broadcast Sciences. Tobias Poole, who recently retired. And so I was an undergrad.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends at the time was a host. And this was during the time when WRTI was just doing jazz. They weren't classical. There was another classical station in the city at the time.
Okay.
And I needed a job. I was on campus, and I was with my friend. His name is Kyle. He's down in Florida now doing radio and some other things and teaching. And I told him I was on campus. I said, I need a job. He asked me, he said, why don't you come past the radio station? And I said, the radio station? The Temple has a radio station? And he's like, Joe, it's WRTI, the jazz station. Didn't know it at the time.
Okay.
Actually, I didn't make the connection.
Yeah.
I knew about WRTI. I just didn't make the connection that I was at the school where the station was. It just,
You mean that's here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I came through, and at that time, Mark Humphrey was building an audio studio. And I remember walking through, and they were almost finished, but a couple cables and lights and knobs and stuff everywhere. And I said, this is where I need to be. So as an undergrad, 17 years old, 18 years old, came past the station, stayed there for a summer. My first job there was opening up CDs for hosts, getting coffee, pulling music.
Yeah.
Wanted to get into the engineering department, but they didn't need a student at the time.
Right.
And eventually I made it into the engineering department, and started doing audio production, remote broadcasting under the tutelage of a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Started hanging around with Jeff DiPolo. When he would go out to some of the sites, I would just get in his truck and just follow him. But when I graduated, the interesting thing, and I did a lot of remote broadcasting and audio engineering work, but when I graduated, I left, went to New York for a while, and was doing computer programming.
Okay.
And that eventually started doing some work with Disney as a freelancer, doing some facility engineering work. And I went back to Temple University for grad school, also working for their information technology department. So it's a sort of a roundabout way that I got back into broadcasting. I always did broadcasting on the side, but my strength was more in information technology.
Okay.
And Tobias, who had become the chief engineer, director of engineering, and working with uh, Jeff DiPolo as one of the senior engineers, he retired. And when he retired, I applied for the job 2.5 years ago, and it went, got interviewed and eventually got picked for the job.
So in a minute, I'm going to ask you about what's been interesting to you here at PREC. But thinking about the last 2.5 years, what has been interesting or challenging, or let's say maybe particularly rewarding about what you've done at WRTI?
I think it's a lot of things. A lot of things have been challenging because when you're the director of engineering, there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that role, and becoming acclimated with, especially when you didn't do broadcasting for the past 30 years. You have people who come before you broadcasting for 30 years, 25 years, and even longer than that. And you're coming into a role where a legacy has been set. Yeah, especially at WRTI with some of the people that came before me. And so just being able to get into a place where I am comfortable with, with some of the things that I might not have done. If my strength is in computer technology and programming, but not RF, let's say, and wrapping my head around that, learning as much as I can, asking the questions, networking, maintaining budgets, and becoming more trying to determine how you go about putting together 2, 3, 4, 5-year plan, 10-year plans to build.
That's part of a public radio. It's part of a public radio engineer's job is to plan ahead, work with probably the general manager to have these plans, and because you probably have long budget cycles.
We do, and we're associated with the university, so there's other things that come in with that, and also when you have lots of translators and other transmitters and an aging infrastructure.
Sure.
And just getting into these places where you're upgrading and updating the equipment that's there. So we're in the midst of a lot of those plans.
It struck me you were gracious to talk about the what came before you, the legacy and the knowledge of systems as they've been progressing over the years, and you were coming into that kind of new, but your IT expertise is exactly what's needed in broadcasting these days. And some stations, including my own. I mean, I'm a reasonably equipped IT guy, but I know that my own radio stations could be in better shape. We could have more intelligent or well thought out systems. But you bring that right in, and I think, and broadcasting needs a skill set like what you offer.
Yeah, so that's what I'm discovering, and it's sort of something that I knew, but I'm discovering more that I'm in the role how these technologies and these industries converge, and with the evolving role of technology and traditional roles of broadcasting with automation and integration.
Yeah. Actually, you just invented a great word. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna start a company called Automation. I love that.
And even in the past 2.5 years, we did a lot of upgrades in our plant with the WheatNet network and audio network, and upgrades to our wide orbit system. Integrating some of our things with Music Master and wide orbit, and bringing our automation up to speed. There's more that we want to do, a lot of things that are still planned, but I realized that my expertise in computer technology and computer integration was necessary. To understand that.
Plenty of stations are lacking that, and so the IT integration or the quality secure IT integration. I see people doing things that, okay, this works, but it's insecure, and I'm guilty as charged on that too.
Well, yeah, that's very important, and even within the university infrastructure, we have a wide and a very strong ITS team that I work with as well. But also, we have systems that are part of our WheatNet network and our audio network that are autonomous. And even working with Jeff DiPolo to ensure that that's secure, VPNs and microwaves out to our different sites. And, so it's really important to, and I think with all type of utilities, not just radio, you definitely don't want anyone getting into your systems. Yeah.
Is there we're going to wrap it up here in a second. Is there a session that you really enjoyed or something that you're looking forward to?
So just before I came out, they were talking about AI. And that was one of the ones that I really found interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how AI and how the integration of AI into a lot of the things that are being done in radio, not just from the content side, but also from the engineering side, and how to use language models, large language models, and smaller language models to sort of advance the role of technology in broadcasting. So that'll be interesting. Yeah.
I think so. We're using a little bit of AI at a couple of my stations, and it's working out okay. I mean, it's got a ways to go, but all new technologies do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the other earlier sessions was talking about just typical things that all engineers should know, but it's always good to hear people talk about some of the FCC rules and regulations, what's required of you as an engineer, especially from the FCC side, to stay clean and how to maintain your transmitter logs and your station logs and what to look out for. So I found that interesting too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Joseph, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you very much. Good luck at WRTI.
Thank you.
Hope to catch up with you again.
Thank you.
Take care. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack here at the Public Radio Engineering Conference. We've got a quick word from our sponsor, Vox Pro and Broadcasters General Store. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's Vox Pro. Now, a lot of folks have used previous versions of Vox Pro, all awesome, but I want to tell you about some of my favorite new features in 7. And for folks who've never used Vox Pro before, I'm about to tell you why it's an absolute game changer and essential for really fast-paced multi-element radio. Lots of different audio software out there. Why Vox Pro? Because it was designed for radio. It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in Vox Pro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom, from caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready.
Ready for that secret sound.
Boom, all of that stuff, hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit.
You are tackling secret sound caller 9. I'm ready, St. John.
So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Literally saves 80% of your editing and cleanup time. Final thing that I love about Vox Pro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. Vox Pro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about Vox Pro, and you will be glad you did.
And the best way to get Vox Pro is actually to call Broadcasters General Store, because they are a big authorized dealer for Vox Pro. And you can call them at 352-622-7700 or go to bgs.cc for Broadcasters General Store. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack. We're at the Public Radio Engineering Conference here in Las Vegas at the Tuscany Hotel. And they do this every year. I guess they didn't do it at, 1 or 2 years during COVID, but it's been a good day today. I love hearing about that mic comparison that Mike Pappas did. That was pretty cool. Tomorrow on the agenda, let's see, for Friday. Let's see. Well, I guess I'm speaking tomorrow about working virtually, and I've got 2 different guests who are on the way over here, but they're not here just yet. I don't know if we can get them over here. I want to make a mention of a couple of things next week on the show, This Week in Radio Tech. We'll be doing the show probably on Tuesday next week from the show floor. You can have a seat right here from the show floor. And we're going to, of course, do the show live on Tuesday and then play it. Here you go. And play it back on Thursday at the usual time. So we'll see about getting that done. Is that coffee?
It's decaf.
Decaf.
Because they said it's time for decaf switch.
That's just hot brown water, right?
It is, but they told me it was time.
It's good to see you.
I know it's good. This might be my last official PREC, right? I'm retiring officially June 30th.
Yeah.
but I told Molly I'd stay on halftime until December 31st.
Yeah.
Hoping they can find somebody so I can onboard somebody and not leave them in a lurch.
I need to give you a proper introduction. This is our longtime friend, Rich Barker. I met Rich when you were in Vermont, right?
That's correct.
Vermont
Yeah.
Public Radio.
I think you even came up to Mount Scottney and we worked on the processor one time.
Yes,
That
my
was,
goodness.
that was a long
Yeah.
time ago. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do a good job, he threatened to make me do the paragliding. What is that?
Oh,
When
the hang gliding off of
hang
Mount
gliding,
Scottney.
yeah,
Yeah, you could actually. I've heard rumors you could actually almost make it to the East Coast, to the west. Yeah, to the East Coast from Mount Scottney.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
And then you moved to Alaska,
I did.
and your adventures there have been just weekly.
I love it there. I love it. I mean, I hate to leave, but I mean, I'll be, full disclosure, I'll be 72 in July, and we've got relatives and friends on the East Coast, and my wife would really like to, take some time and go travel and see them. My dad turned 99 in March, and he lives in North Miami Beach, so I owe him a trip.
Wow.
It's a lot of good close friends and things. So people come to visit us, though. Joyce Lieberman.
Yeah,
Mason,
yeah.
my wife.
Yeah, she was on the show just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so her and her husband are going to come visit us. They're going to do a cruise, so they're going to come stay a couple of days with us in Juneau,
Cool.
get on a cruise, and go back. So
Oh, how
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun.
Now, you've made enormous improvements at the Coast Alaska radio stations.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried, and I'm trying to work with people to leave somebody, something really good, before I fully leave. So it'll be challenging. Still a lot of documentation and cable management that needs to happen, but I mean, we're doing good. Trying to get budget to replace equipment that's old. I really super appreciated Tony's presentation, and you guys do the same thing. The idea of getting away from hardware unobtainium is that's a holy grail. I just love that. I'd love that to be the future of broadcasting.
Well, in fact, there's Tony right over there.
You got to get him to come sit down.
Well, we're out of time. We're already about 4 minutes over, so we'll
my
take a
gosh.
couple more minutes over.
Well, okay, so go online if you're on the Broadcast Engineers Facebook page.
Uh-huh.
I posted it. I also posted it at the SBE site, the job description. I got some flyers I'm handing out here. I'll probably try to draw some off at the SBE thing this weekend if they'll let me leave some at the table. But come to Alaska. It's a great opportunity. You do a lot of MacGyvering. you gotta figure stuff out for yourself. You can't. I've done this for 38 years. I have never worked a place that the people were so great. The engineers were great. The support group, Molly's great. The station managers are amazing. Everybody pitches in and does what has to get done, and it's good.
There seems to be, and from what you describe, dealing with all the studios and stations you deal with Coast Alaska, a great deal of appreciation for each other's talents.
That's true. And I will say that, I know we're running over, but the IP thing is a huge boon because now stations are finally getting, in the last 5 years, really decent IP service. Now I can actually call up ops managers, news people and say, okay, let's do a two-way. Okay, you don't have an iPhone, I don't have an iPhone. Okay, we'll use WhatsApp, we'll use Zoom.
Yeah.
You hold the phone up and let's do a video conference. I'll tell you, okay, push this button, do this, try this, change this. And I can then log on, remotely and look at the computers. And that has changed everything because, any flight to a station is like, $300-400 round trip minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum. So this has been a huge thing. And being able to virtualize stuff, that's going to be the next big stuff. So anyway.
Rich Parker, best of luck, man. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I really hope to see you again.
I'm sure you will.
And now, did you say that you're going to be moving away from Juneau or staying there?
No, we're staying. Just
Okay.
my wife wants to go and travel. And,
Okay.
maybe, I don't know, a month here, a month there, and then come back. I mean, we like Juneau. We love it.
Well, if you get through Nashville.
Well, we might because her sister lives just south of Nashville, one of the suburbs.
Oh, okay, like Franklin or Columbia or
Something
Spring Hill.
Spring Hill maybe, or
Okay.
Columbia, something like that. Yeah.
All right.
Plus, I got to go see Angry Auto. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I want to go see.
Well, until or unless our house sells, I got a 3-bedroom side of the house that is open for you.
Well, I'll tell my wife.
Yeah.
She'll love to, but she'll probably want to stay with her sister.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, if you come over, you'll have to put up with my wife's expert cooking.
Oh, I was so happy I got to meet. Is she here this year or no?
No, she's in Spain visiting her daughter.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It was so. Congratulations to you too. I mean, I was so happy I got to meet her last year. She's a peach.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
is.
really is.
So, All right, man. Take
Rich
care.
Barker, thank you very much. It's Kirk Harnack. We're here at the Tuscany Hotel for the Public Radio Engineering Conference. We got to go right now. Thanks to our sponsors. Really appreciate them. And, thanks to you. If you like the show, whatever you're watching this on, Facebook or YouTube or maybe some other way, please click like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. It does help us out. We'd love to get even more engineers involved in watching and listening to the show. We get plenty of general managers and other non-engineers who partake in the show. So we really appreciate that. Visit our sponsors, give their websites a visit, call them up, find out what they got that'll help you out. And a big thanks to Suncast. Once again, he's done a yeoman's job of putting this show together and making it all look good on the air, despite my best efforts, to be lazy about it. So thanks a lot, Suncast. We'll see you next week.